On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks wasted a massive opportunity. Looking at these playoffs, they could have gone all the way again. We'll explain why and lessons to learn on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm going to get a city like back.
Dogs, all of us, all five.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave me alone.
Your team every day.
Gotta be bold. Dogs up.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstead, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. Thanks for being an everydayer, making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Joining me, as always, my co-host, media member covering the Mavs alongside me for 10 years, the We Back Boy, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Oh, we're back together. We're back together. I have a question for you. In light of, hey, we got a new Pope out there. Shout out, new Pope Leo. But in regards to things happening over time, what's going to happen first? GTA 6 drops or the Mavs front office makes a change?
What constitutes a change?
Nico is replaced.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto's coming out.
All right, that's May of next year. So.
I was gonna say it's only like a year, right? So yeah, we'll take that.
All right.
Today's episode, we're looking around the NBA playoffs and we're trying to come up with takeaways that the Mavericks should take away. I've got a bunch of them. Isaac's got a bunch of them too. We've been watching some of these games. One of them I want to talk about is we've talked about it's the weak link era, and you just can't have the weakest link on the court. And we've got some criteria for it. We're going to go through some of the Mavs players and see who qualifies for like a playoff player. We've got a bunch of other takeaways too, but let's start here, Isaac. I'm starting to look around the NBA right now, and I'm looking at the Cavs down 0-2 because they've got some injuries. I'm looking at the Celtics down 0-2 to the Knicks. They're finally getting tested in a playoff series, and now we're seeing against a healthy team, we're seeing what they're made of. I'm seeing the Thunder dropped a game against the Nuggets, and now they don't have home court advantage in that series. I'm starting to see the Warriors with Steph Curry down, and the Timberwolves. We know what they're capable of. And
the Timberwolves beat a team in the first round.
The Rockets. I was not worried about the Rockets in any way.
The Timberwolves.
I was not worried about that. But I'm starting to look around, and the Mavs this season. Not even talking about future seasons. This season, the Mavs threw away an opportunity. And yes, the butterfly effect, you can go through all the different things. Would Kyrie still have gotten hurt if the trade didn't happen and all that? But yeah, we're dipping back into the trade talk because the Mavs had an opportunity this year. And one of the things that I'm learning looking at the playoffs is you just can't throw away your shot. You just never know when it's going to break right for you. And I thought the Mavs learned that last year. They had finally built a team around Luka that made sense this year. And then they threw away this shot trying to galaxy brain look at this season and next season and the season after that. And it just completely missed the whole opportunity that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I think I go back to the defense wins championships comment so much over these past few weeks. And the fact that you made the NBA finals, you were like there. Yes. And you were 3 wins away. I get it. Boston dominated. And I know 3 wins is kind of like misleading to say that. But
yeah, but if Luka doesn't get ejected at the end of in game 3, they win that one. Then they win game 4 by like 50.
You're in
different series.
You're in the NBA finals and you lose the NBA finals and you walk out of the finals saying, well, you know what? We didn't win the finals. So we need to make a massive, massive change in order to win this game. It's like you got to the, I said it a few weeks ago, like Nico just got too close to the sun to where he's just like, I'm going to swing for this. A few of these things is working. And then you're like that close to the sun. You think that you can just make another big move here and there. And then he got burnt from it. And it's like, you just missed an opportunity. Like when you don't know the injuries that's going to happen. You look at this thing, that's happened with the Cavs and stuff. How many changes could the Pacers have made, even at the trade deadline? Like Miles Turner is going to be a free agent this coming offseason. Yeah. They could lose him for nothing. They didn't have to sign Nembhard and some of these guys to extensions and be like, oh, well, you know what? We're going to have to trade 1 or 2 of these guys coming up in the summer because we don't pay the luxury tax and we're a small market team and all this stuff. You know what they looked at and said? You only get so many opportunities, and we have a young stud in Halliburton. We have these guys in Siakam. We're paying this massive amount of money. We're not going to trade Miles Turner because we feel like we have a shot at it this year. And we might lose him for nothing this summer, but we feel like we have a shot. And now they're 2 wins away from the conference finals. And it's like, that's the type of stuff that it's just crazy. You looked at a team with a Luka Doncic and you said, well, we didn't actually win the ring. So can he do it? Let's trade him. And it's wild. I don't know if I'm like fully there with some of the people. It's like, dude, we could have won the title this year. OKC is a monster. They lost the first game.
They're
I
very
get it.
good.
But they are so good.
And better than last year.
Yeah. Where it's like, it feels like it would be a bigger surprise if they don't win the title this year. But the Mavericks could have made a long playoff run. And it's just kind of frustrating to see that.
Well, you look at the side of the bracket that the Lakers were on. Lakers, Timberwolves, Rockets, Warriors. Like, I'm feeling comfortable with the Mavericks against all of those teams.
We're assuming Kyrie's healthy, obviously.
Assuming Kyrie is healthy, and yes, it's the butterfly effect. We're going back and looking through it, and it's obviously all revisionist history. That's all we have right now is revisionist history, because there is no history being written right now for the Mavericks, except for what Isaac talked about yesterday with the trainers in the front office being changed, and Nico finally admitting a mistake, I guess.
They were better. Yeah, they were better.
Yeah, you said it well yesterday on the show. Basically captured what I would have said on it. But you look at the Knicks. The Knicks went all in on a team that didn't look like they were as good as the Cavs, didn't look like they were as good as the Celtics. All year, people were like, well, Knicks went all in. 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Now look what it got them. No, they're not even good enough to advance. And they're up 2-0 on the Celtics. And now the Knicks have home court advantage. They haven't played one game in Madison Square Garden yet.
I can't wait for that game.
Oh, did you see the clip of the security guard in TD Garden in Boston trying to kick out the Knicks fans?
She like fell over and stuff, and like, oh man.
Who do you find? I find myself rooting for Brunson and the Knicks like really hard.
Yeah. No, I'm rooting for the Knicks. I'm not a big Towns guy at all, but I like Bridges and OG and Hart, and obviously love Jalen Brunson. And
after all that, you're not a fan of Towns?
I was thinking about it, and I was like, Nico had to be so relieved when the Lakers lost that series.
Yeah, right. They go to the finals again.
He's like, thank God I don't have to deal with a long Luka playoff run. And all this, on the other side, Brunson's like, hold my beer.
He's like in the darkness, like emerging.
Because I'm going to remind everybody that you didn't want to give me an extension that would have paid him like $55 million and all the different stuff. And they even came back to you and you still said, no, let's wait out the season. I think it's tough.
I think it was Monday's show that I said, we've rehashed the Luka trade so much that we've grounded it into a fine powder. Would you like to fine powder, like rehash the Brunson thing again?
I don't know about the fine powder part, but it's just like,
we've rehashed it so much.
It's so tough. It's like one of those things. I mean, I shot a text the other day. I was joking, but I'm like, tired, a long Luka run would kill Nico. Wired, a long Brunson run to the finals would destroy Nico. What would be worse for him? Maybe it's the Brunson career arc that kills Nico more than Luka.
I'll say we've been wrong about many things on this show. One of the things we said at the time, give Brunson the max. And we were saying give him more than what the Knicks gave him.
Yeah. It's more for me about when they didn't give him the extension. And you get to the summer, then it's just like crazy. You know, there's so many different opinions. Cuban's like, we didn't have a chance to offer the money. Some people was like, well, they didn't go up above the Knicks' offer, so they didn't get the deal.
Fred VanVleet number is what they just kept saying over and over. And then Fred VanVleet gets paid $44 million now.
Yeah. It's more about just, once again, asset management too, that you have this guy and he's willing to sign the paper for a super cheap contract. And you can't help to do the what if. I'm sure we'll probably do it in August or September of what if Brunson signed that extension, because you would have maybe this version of Brunson making, under $20 million a year.
Don't make me sad again.
With Luka. Yeah.
With Luka. That team would have foul grifted all the way to the finals.
Whoa, major grifting right now. And miss me with the big three pictures of The Mavs had this and gave up on it, and they tried to tag Porzingis in there. It's like, no.
That's the dragon meme with the one goofy looking dragon, right? Like,
yeah.
Porzingis is good when he plays, but that's the thing is when he plays, he can be effective when he plays, but you just don't know. You're not guaranteed that at all.
Yeah, I hear you on the Brunson thing, but
yeah, for sure. We were there. We were there. Wanted them to re-sign him. Wanted them to give him the max. All that, and it just wasn't in the cards. His dad got hired by the Knicks. His former agent was the GM of the Knicks. It just wasn't in the cards at a certain point after the Mavs messed it up a couple times and messed it up with two different regimes. The Donnie Nelson regime and the Nico regime both messed it up in their own ways.
Yes, they did.
Coming up, other things we've learned from the playoffs. You cannot have a weak link in your lineup or in your rotation being played. We'll go through the Mavs and ask, can that player be hunted on defense? Can that player do things on offense? Talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by DoorDash. As you're watching these playoff games, sometimes there's just too many games and you're like, I can't leave my seat. They've been so awesome lately. You have 20-point games that have just been completely like wiped clean. You've had the Knicks 2 comebacks in these ones. You have the Pacers had an insane comeback in the last minute, and playoff season means big performances, even bigger rewards. DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for Dash Pass members during the 2025 NBA playoffs. It's called They Swoosh, You Score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more in a playoff game, who do you think is going to drop 50? You still got SGA left. You got Jokic left. I wouldn't put it past Brunson. Donovan Mitchell just had 48. He got real close there. You can score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the very next day on orders of $20 or more. Use the code Wingstop50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Check it out. Sign up for Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. When any player scores 50 plus in a game, in a playoff game, Dash Pass members can grab a three-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 or more order and code Wingstop50. That's the letters Wingstop and then the number 0, Wingstop50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more fit, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
And thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. We've got our text line if you want to support the show, 214-643-8637. Text us. We'll send all kinds of messages. The other day, Nico makes a move in the front office when we gave our thoughts on it. Send it to you right away. You don't have to check Twitter all the time through the offseason. We'll send you it. We'll send it to you on a text straight to your phone, give you our thoughts. We'll send you the show every day, all kinds of good stuff on there. And it helps support the show. It's a small amount to pay monthly, but it helps support the show. You can do it for 2 weeks free if you want to try it out, and then help support the show in that way. 214-643-8637. All right, Isaac. Talking about takeaways and lessons from the playoffs so far. One of the things I've been looking at, and Slightly and I talked about this last week when we did kind of this same show with the first round, is that we're no longer in like the big 3 era. The big 3s of the Phoenix Suns or the Brooklyn Nets. They didn't work for various reasons, CBA related and others. We're in the weak link era now. You got to have like 2 guys or 2 stars, basically, or a star and a couple pseudo stars, basically. And you just can't have a weak link in your lineup. You get somebody out there and all of a sudden they're getting hunted on defense over and over again, or you get somebody out there that is 1-dimensional or 0-dimensional on offense. Like there are no more Kendrick Perkinses anymore playing in the NBA, right? That's why the only one we have, the only Kendrick Perkins we have is on TV doing his thing.
Thank God.
I mean, not thank God he's on TV, but
no, thank God he's the only one.
Yeah, right. And so I started to think about this because I heard someone put it this way. The 2 questions you got to ask about any player in your playoff rotation: can they be hunted on defense? Can you do things on offense? Like, can you be multidimensional on offense and do a couple things? Because if you got one guy out there who can only do one thing, then they're not going to go there. Like, a Josh Hart, you don't guard him on offense at all, but he can do multiple things. He can offensive rebound, he can dribble, he can pass, he can shoot sometimes. You can do some of those things. Draymond, you don't have to guard him shooting the ball, but he can handle the ball. He can drive. He can every once in a while he'll put a 3 up with his his backpack wearing shot, and then he can obviously play make. But I started to think about that, and I think that dichotomy of those 2 questions, I think if you can answer that question for every single one of your players in a playoff rotation, and you can feel good about each of them, then I think you're in a good spot.
And if you have one Because I mean, realistically, right? Like you might have a Steph Curry. The offense is going to fully outweigh what he can, the
Yeah.
defensive side. Now he's frisky on defense. He does so many other things besides shoot the basketball, which makes him one of the all-time greatest players ever. But if you have a guy that's going to be targeted, you can't have more than one. You look at like New York. You got to be able to protect him. Like he gets targeted. Like he's just naturally going to. He's not the greatest perimeter defender. He's smaller, so he's going to get targeted on the defensive end. Well, you know how you negate that? You trade 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, arguably the best perimeter defender in the league. Another great perimeter defender in the league in OG Anunoby. You make a trade for him, give him a contract.
I would flip those adjectives on those, but
either he's one of them.
Yeah.
You have Josh Hart, who can guard opposing point guards and all that stuff. Like those are 3 guys right there that are incredible perimeter defenders. That how many teams can say that they have 3 of those guys that's closing games that are really, really good defender. So like you got to kind of negate the targeting on Brunson to have the other guys. And for the Mavericks' sake, you think about the double big situation. This is why it's so big that Derek Lively develops more on the perimeter and he could switch off and guard some of these perimeter guys, because if you're rolling out these 2 guys and AD and Lively, AD can hold his ground and stuff, but still, if you're going to have 2 bigs out there, you really got to have the other perimeter spots locked down defensively. And I mean, yeah, do they have those type of guys on the team? I don't know.
And I think there's a difference between, because we're going to talk about some of these players and what we think about them on each side of this question. There's a difference between a Brunson and like a Trae Young, where a Trae Young can be hunted and be exposed. Brunson at least can be hunted, but he's going to stand his ground because he's stocky, he's strong, and he's just he's just like, he's just bumping guys and just being physical on defense enough to hold his ground enough so that the defense can recover and can help him in that. And you don't get that in that way. And that's where the dichotomy of like even watching a Luka on defense. There are some times where he just lets them go by him, and you don't even get a chance to recover your defense and go back. And then there's other times where he stands his ground and he looks strong, and all of a sudden you go, man, is Luka kind of like an underrated defender? Like you swing back and forth between the 2 of them. For Kyrie, I think we go through the first one. He can get hunted on defense. Or at least they're going to try in the lineups that the Mavs are going to have next year. They're going to try him and they're going to try Lively, but they're going to try Kyrie, but at least he can hold his own. We've seen him hold his own on defense all the way to the finals.
He's not Damian Lillard. Like Damian Lillard at this point in his career, like he gets hunted. He's not good on the perimeter at all. Obviously post trade too, but
I was going to say, are you worried about Kyrie post injury now?
I mean, I think anybody that's over the age of 30 who has an ACL tear, you at least are a little bit worried, but I'm not fully worried about him.
I thought you were going to say worried about anybody over the age of 30. I was like, well,
once you get over 30, I mean,
I'm just worried about you.
Colonoscopy. I mean, come on.
You guys are doing it. Is there anybody that stands out to you in the Mavs, like potential playoff rotation as it stands right now, where you have a hard time answering, can you be hunted on defense and see that that's a red flag? Or can you do multiple things on offense and see that as a red flag?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw it on last year's playoff run when Gafford was getting played off the floor. There's a reason why Lively was playing. They're going small at times. He just doesn't have the perimeter lateral quickness and stuff to hold his ground on the perimeter and stuff on switches. So, I mean, that's basically the only one. I mean, you could, Clay's not the same defender he was in Golden State pre-injuries, but he can still hold his ground pretty good. Obviously, PJ is your best like perimeter guy out there. Naj, you can play good defense. You can go across the board. You hope Max Christie can be one of those guys that can be a 3-and-D type of dude. I think that's the, what's the draft pick go if they take a guard with that 11th pick or higher. Is that one of the spots and stuff? Because obviously Dinwiddie wasn't winning any. He wasn't Gary Payton out there. So,
or Gary Payton the second,
but defense wins championships, right? I mean, this is the calling card.
Gafford was the only one where I couldn't answer both of the questions. Where I go, can he be hunted on defense? Yes. Can he do multiple things on offense? Well, he can score, and maybe you can count pick and roll and post up as 2 different things. But then also the rebounding has been an issue. And so he's not out there doing what Steven Adams was doing, where Adams was setting great screens and rebounding. It's just they're different things. But I do think that the Mavs have that question answered. Like Gafford being the only one that has the red flag on both of them is not as big of a deal if you have a Lively, if you have an Anthony Davis. Like, okay, that one I'm not worried about. But what I was worried about was like a Najee. Can you do multiple things on offense? Because right now, a lot of the Mavs' offensive abilities are now going to be a little bit more on. They're going to be a little bit more under a spotlight than they were before because they're not going to get covered up by Luka. Whereas the opposite now is going to happen. The Mavs' defensive deficiencies, like a Clay and a Kyrie, I'm not as worried about them because you have an Anthony Davis now, right? So it would completely flip the spectrum with this trade.
Yeah, for Najee, I'm not as much worried because his playmaking and his mid-range and touch around the basket and the paint and stuff, those are two things that, I mean, I felt like at times, besides Kyrie, he was the best like finisher in the paint the entire season. And then, you know, his playmaking, there were times where he was being ran out at point guard, even started a few games at point guard post Kyrie injury. But it also, with this direction of defense, and Lord knows it's a focus for this team, it gives you more insight too of like players that they could target, you know, come the trade market. Like this is why some people are like, oh, they should go to try to get Trae Young. No, like Trae Young's is not going to fit here, right? Like does not fit the type of player that Nico wants to go after. So you're looking at those two-way guys. You're looking at see what guys, and this is where I'm going to be fascinated come draft time, because there's a need for a backup guard slot that might not be a great defender, but air quotes here, defense wins championships. So do we see a defensive pick in that, you know, that pick in the 11 range? So I don't know. What we see.
They just need offense so much more. Yeah,
they do. Offense doesn't win championships, according to some, though.
Yeah, I start going through them, and I think the Mavs are actually in an okay spot if everybody was healthy. They're gonna need to get some more offense, but at least they have a lot of like, potential playoff players, and I think I felt good about a lot of players going through and asking these questions.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of these guys in the playoffs. We've seen them play in this spot before, outside some of the new guys that, you know, Najee and whatever. But I'm not worried about the roster. It just sucks that you're pretty confident if they were all healthy that they would have had a pretty good run this season.
And could have this year too. Even this crew, if they were healthy this season, we just never. We got to see 2.5 quarters of it.
Yeah.
Coming up, we've got some more takeaways from the playoffs. I've got a bunch of just random NBA ones. Isaac's got a bunch of them. Let's just go through them all coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick. Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn on any TV and turn it into a gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device. No console required. That's right, an Xbox, but you don't need a console for it. Grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included. You're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of titles. EA Sports, college football, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Avowed, all kinds of different games like that. And stream them along with your favorite shows. You can do all the normal stuff with the Fire Stick as well. So check it out. Endless entertainment options, and it's portable. So it's affordable, portable, play high quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K Second Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, First and Second Gen, and Fire TV Cube. Check it out. Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Isaac. We're talking about playoff lessons that we've learned so far. We talked about don't throw away your shot. The Mavs threw away a shot. Weak links. We're concerned about the weak links for the Mavericks. We got maybe a couple red flags there. What are some other things you've learned in this playoffs just watching that you want the Mavs to learn?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like learned, because it's something we've heard about the importance of wings for so long now in this modern NBA. But just watching across it's not just OKC. Let's separate OKC for a second, because they're just a juggernaut monster. But like you go across the board and it's like, I've been fascinated by the impact of Jaden McDaniels. They essentially chose McDaniels over Towns. And I think if you go back like 5 years ago, people would have been like, that's insane. Like Towns puts up these crazy numbers and all this different stuff.
All NBA.
But you see the importance of a Jaden McDaniels whenever they put out the Lakers. You see him in his importance in a series like this Warriors series. And to where you have this 6'10", 6'11" guy, Matt, combined with Anthony Edwards, and somebody in that front office is like, we don't want to have Anthony Edwards without Jaden McDaniels, because it's such an important thing to have one of those guys alongside of your star. And the fact that your star is already a perimeter player who can play really good defense like Anthony Edwards can, but now you have those two guys, and investing in a McDaniels compared to you had an all-star like 4 or 5 in Towns, who says he's the greatest shooting big man of all time, and you gave him up. I think it's just that you look at you look at Indiana, and you look at the impact that like Aaron Nesmith has had, and it's just another guy who got like a smaller contract that they might have to trade this offseason, but I thought he's had a pretty good series. And you see what Cleveland missing a DeAndre Hunter, and them going out and getting him at the trade deadline this past year. The Knicks stuff, we've talked about them investing all their stuff into those perimeter guys. And of course, the Celtics. It's just like you go across the board, and I think we do fall in love with the big shot getters, the Brunsons, if Tatum does hit one, Halliburton, obviously Donovan Mitchell, like these guys are at the guard spot, right? Brunson.
Halliburton's going to take a shot. Halliburton takes tons of shots. Like, that's all Halliburton is known for, is shooting and shots and dropping bombs.
I think it just shows you every team left, which this could be like a conversation around the bigs and Dallas trying to zag outside of Denver. Think about the main guys at the end of games for these teams. That's like getting all the buckets in the clutch moments that you're giving a ball to and say, go get me a basket. SGA, Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, and then Jason Tatum. Tatum and Jokic is the only two guys. And at times it's Jamal Murray, not Jokic, that's going for those end of game shots.
It's been Aaron Gordon lately.
Yeah, and Aaron Gordon. So if all these teams are going to have those type of guys, you gotta be able to defend those guys, and you defend those guys with perimeter guys that are super big, super lanky, and they can hold their ground against those guys. So it just shows you importance, and it makes you think about that second spot, or at least it makes me think about that second spot in the Mavericks rotation. When you have a PJ, who are the other guys? Your next spot is Clay or Anthony Davis. If Davis is out there with Lively, you can't ask that of AD. So is Clay at that? So
can you not? Isn't that what he's brought in to do?
You're gonna have to ask Anthony Edwards to like guard one of these perimeter guys all the time. I mean, Anthony Davis, like maybe New Orleans.
In some playoff, like in some settings, some plays, some possessions.
Yeah, I mean, he can hold his ground, but I'm not sitting there saying, "Hey, can you go out there and guard a Jamal Murray right now?" type of thing. So
it's different.
Anyway, it's just it's not like learning, but it's just a emphasize on the importance of wings.
Yeah, I had size. I mean, I talked about size mattering in the playoffs recently in an episode that many of you loved a lot.
God bless. What are you doing out here? You rage bait title maker.
I did rage bait really, really hard on that one. I was sitting there and I was like, I'm going to be away. I'm going to pre-record this episode and I'm just going to drop it and like not even check the comments.
This is what the YouTube experts are saying right now, guys.
That's right. That's right. I learned from the best. But
even this real quick, the Knicks, think about the Knicks. How many times at the end of these two games, or at least for me, have I forgotten that Towns is even like playing?
Yeah. He's taken 2 threes these whole 2 games against the Celtics.
Because it's like, it's Brunson running the show. It's the perimeter guys. And it's like, it's not like they invested a crazy ton in Towns, but like you have this like all-star guy.
Yeah.
Anthony Towns. And when push comes to shove and it's the biggest moments of the game, your big is kind of just like there.
Unless they're a Jokic.
Yeah. And he's
like it's the one of one. It's unless you're a one of one player. And so there's going to be a lot asked of Kyrie in this, which I think is interesting. I had size mattering. I think the double big, we've seen double bigs a lot though. We've seen talk about Towns and Mitchell Robinson. They like couldn't bring Mitchell Robinson off the floor, even though they were playing hack-a-shack against him. Adams and Şengün in the first round, they extended that series because of that size. You talk about the size of the Jaden McDaniels with Gobert and Randall has been helpful for them. The Nuggets with Aaron Gordon and Porter Jr. along with
Yeah.
Along with Jokic, the size of the two Cavs guys. I mean, they've been struggling now, but without Mobley in that second game, they struggled. Even the Pacers with like Siakam and Turner, like
Yeah.
there's some size there. So there's just size all across the board. And I think the Mavs at least have that. One of the things that I learned is a 20-point lead ain't nothing. Nothing anymore. I've been trying to tell people all the time when there's a 20-point lead in the NBA, like anybody in my life, like, oh, this game's over. Like, hold on. Unless you're the Rockets offense.
Except that OKC game 2. It was over.
Yeah, you felt like, well, there's a feeling. But even still, I mean, you think that the Celtics, they've had 2 20-point leads, and a 20-point lead is nothing in the NBA anymore.
It's been beautiful.
I've also Haka anything, like the intentional fouling is so weak. It's such a weak.
It's always been weak.
It's such a weak, like, you're admitting defeat, I think, when you do that. And yes, the Warriors end up beating the Rockets when they were playing Haka against Adams. But Boston doing it to Mitchell Robinson the other day, I was like, I am not impressed by that. Like, that just seems like you're playing from such a weak, like vantage point.
I've been thinking about OKC a lot. Is this going to be the next team that people try to build things to beat? Like, you have these like unique teams. I naturally go back to Shaq days, and when Dallas is like, we're bringing in Eric Dampier, we're giving him a big contract because we got to have a body, to guard Shaq. You think about those Warriors squads and teams trying to emulate that, or teams looking at I never forget the Hawks when they had Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, and they drafted Amari Spellman, and they're like, are they going for the which shout out to Villanova, generational run right now for them. But I look at like OKC and I'm like, is it replicable?
I mean, I don't think it is. It's one of those one of one team building scenarios.
I know, and that's the thing. I feel like you almost got to look at like those Warriors teams and saying everything had to not go right. Everything had to go wrong so much in order for it to be right now, to where like Sam Hinkie's like, this was my goal. This was my plan. I wanted to suck for 10 years and then we could have been. But it's just like, there's something.
Sam Hinkie had his like, or Sam Presti. Sam Hinkie?
Well, I was thinking about Hinkie and like in the Philly days, and just like trust the process, and we're going to suck so long and all this stuff. And it's like Presti has done it in OKC.
Yeah.
And I remember people having those conversations with SGA. Is like, dude, is he really going to keep signing up for just sucking? Like, are they going to keep doing this, having a good player like this and just continuously trying to lose out? And now you look at it and it's like, when is the next time that they're going to be bad?
In like 2 years, we're going to be asking that question about Max Christie.
Ooh.
I hope.
Mad Max.
Let us know in the comment section what things you've learned about the playoffs. There's all kinds of great stuff. We'll have shows all throughout next week. We got the lottery coming up. We've done a couple of shows the last couple of days talking about the lottery and what we would do if the Mavs got in the top. So we'll do a preview on Sunday night talking about that. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Check the links in the description to follow the show. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!